Another round of narrow down. How's it going? Millennial Spectrum, round 2. You saw the earlier episode where we got off on a tangent. We're going to try and stay on topic, on point this time, or topics.
So we'll see how much we can run into.
So Santa's sleigh, bring the gifts.
I gotta find that video and just like put it up
put
in
it
the
up
background
right
when you were like...
Emily, right now, play it.
Okay, so I brought this up in part 1, but then we got off on like a crazy tangent where...
No,
Me.
yeah. I went along for the ride for sure.
First thing that we were talking about was the ice cream machines. This one is specifically a lawsuit for McDonald's, but I think, honestly, a lot of fast food places uses it because it's Taylor brand, which I've seen everywhere.
Okay.
As the ice cream machine. And as I mentioned in part 1, I had always heard that the ice cream machines are always down because they have to be cleaned every couple of hours. And so this is like an excuse.
We had watched that Ian Carroll video. So if you haven't seen Ian Carroll and his video breakdown of some earlier video breakdowns, he had some additional information. And so we're kind of reacting to that.
Where it kind of blew my mind because essentially, as far as my understanding goes, is that they put software in the, right?
The allegations are.
The allegations in this lawsuit are that the Taylor company put software in these ice cream machines that make them break down.
Well, there is a company that designed software to prevent that from happening. And they were selling it to people.
Which leads people to believe, why would you create that if that's not going on?
Well, it was working. So there was a company that created a software program and would do updates and would fix the machine so that they wouldn't break down like this.
I guess I was a little bit confused. Is the lawsuit that the original company does that, or that
Taylor was going after the other company that was producing the fix for their machines?
Which is wild. Well, first of all, I understand why Taylor would be upset because...
Well, like they pointed out, the figures, they claim the figure was like 30% of their total revenue. And then in another figure, it was shown, which they claim. So in one report that was shown was saying the figure was somewhere around 30% of their revenue, and it was like 70 million. And then the other report was showing that their service and repair revenue was like 131 million or something like that.
And this is like a year.
Yeah.
Well, because if you think about it, you sell the ice cream machine and that's it.
Yeah. Why not have one that you gotta constantly... It's like having a subscription service.
You're constantly fixing it. But my question is like, how is it a guarantee that you'll hire them to fix it?
It's a part of the contract. It's their piece of equipment that you have to have as a franchisee with the Golden Arches.
It's just so brilliant. If you like, so scammy.
Yeah.
But so brilliant if you think about it.
Well, there's all this. It brought up that conversation with us in being in what we do. There's a major hotel chain that's involved in this story that uses, every company uses their preferred vendors.
Sure.
Right? They have preferred vendors.
Yeah.
But there's multiple preferred vendors within this particular business where the product is vastly inferior and creates all kinds of trouble. And the staff and employees are constantly just saying like, why will they not replace this product with a more updated version? And then come to find out that there's a tie-in between that company and that company, like they're related financially.
I'm like trying to piece it together in my head, but you're being a little too vague.
Yeah. Well, let's say you had a company and you ran a company and your friend ran a company.
Yeah.
And you run a car wash business and they run a soap business. And so you sign a contract to exclusively purchase their soap. But you're not purchasing it because you're a franchisee, right? So, so I should say you're the one who owns the franchise, but the franchisees are actually the ones who are purchasing it from your friend. So they're the ones who are having to absorb the cost and make it happen. Right.
But they don't realize that that's the reason why they have to purchase it.
Well, yes. Yeah. Well, essentially, yeah. I mean, like you can get into, so there's gyms. Like you could start up a gym and within the franchise agreement, you get a gym that has a name and people want the name and they want the setup because it comes with the setup. It comes with the training. It comes with the vendors. It comes with the how-to. Here's how much startup capital you need. Here's how you run the business. And if you do that, you'll make X amount of money per year. Right? Well, then you go and you find out that within there you have to use John's resistance bands, and John is tied into the person of Dave's exercise gym that you bought into. So you now as a franchisee want to use Stephanie's bands because they never break and you buy them one time and they're good forever. And John's are breaking every month and you have to buy $1,000 in exercise bands every month. And that's worked into your franchise agreement. So you as the franchisee have to spend $1,000 a month on these other bands that are inferior. And so that's what's happening. It sounds like that's the implication of what's happening in this case. And it happens, I know it happens in other places, in other businesses.
I feel like if you had a friend who did something, would you not? I know what's going on in your head.
How can you tell?
I know what's going on. You're gonna have to interact.
That is a catchy little hook.
You're just like dancing over. If you had a friend, or if I could figure out a way to get like a business to exclusively buy like our clothing, would you not?
Yeah, I understand. That's why it is. But when you get to be so large and you have all these other franchisees that are scratching their head and saying, hey, you're making us waste $30,000 a year to supplement this person's business. And without this business structure, it would be $30,000 a year in my pocket, right? So they're getting
that's a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm just throwing out a number. It may be more or less. Depends on how often they're programmed to break down, allegedly.
I mean, and honestly, like, that's super unfortunate, I guess, for them. It doesn't really impact too many of us, maybe that ice cream machine. But if you think about it, there's probably, I mean, look at your phone. Anytime there's a new updated phone, they have lost lawsuits that they put certain slower software when you update your phone.
Yeah, or to save battery and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so it's just like, I think all of us are impacted with something like that. I just never thought about it in an ice cream.
Well, that's probably the brilliance of it. And that's why it went on for so long before people really started hammering on it. Because I know the whistle was blowing on it a long while ago. I remember watching that original YouTube video and find it pretty fascinating.
So you had heard of this years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not somebody
yeah.
everything.
Sorry. Yeah, but yeah, no doubt. I definitely watched that guy's video. That's why when Ian Carroll showed it, I was like, oh yeah. Because that guy actually went through the manuals and called and did all the legwork.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he recorded it all.
I wonder if there's ever anything that I would be that passionate enough to do. But, was he passionate about ice cream machines or just about getting the content?
Just about getting to the bottom of it. I think it like drove him nuts. Well, he started off with a story about being irritated how they were always broken or something like that. And it took him down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
We're just kind of gravitated towards certain rabbit holes than others, where it's just like, you could probably spend hours on the dark web just
I've never done that. Never really gone in there. I never really mess with that stuff because I'm worried about stuff getting tied back to your computer and picking stuff up. Like if you don't have the proper software and the right setup, you're basically, it's like the people who know what they're doing on there are able to operate kind of incognito and whatever they want to get, whether it be supplements or whatever. Some of the worst stuff of humanity can be found on there, right, for sale. But if you're like me, you'd plug in and go accessing some of these sites, and I don't have the VPN set up correctly and the firewalls correctly. So it'd basically be like me walking around with like a bucket of cash, like hanging out, right? Like by someplace where,
I remember when creepypasta was huge.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? But that wasn't necessarily dark web. That was just like,
it was dark.
It was just dark stories.
Yeah.
Which probably have like no validity to it actually, because isn't it
being real?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it depends on which one you're referring to, but I know that there used to be like the Faces of Death, and then there was it Hurt? I can think of some of the websites that were up early when the internet before it became like hugely popular. Like just after the time of AOL, I remember with dial-up, you and your friends, or at least me and my friends, would find out about something and we'd be on that site and you'd see some of the most disturbing videos of humanity, like people being run over by trains or whatever. And
There was that one where that kid
I think wasn't
unalived
there a
his dad.
hurt.com or hurt? Wasn't there something like that?
I don't know.
There was another one that had like a very simple name, but it was like some of the worst videos ever.
Yeah. I know YouTube, early YouTube used to have stuff like that.
Early YouTube used to have full pirated movies and stuff.
That's how I watched a lot of movies, was YouTube, and Hulu used to be free. But
she's just kidding. She never did that.
Well, no, Hulu really did used to be free. And then they realized that they could get a subscription. YouTube.
Well, I think it's the same thing we talked about earlier, like with Costco and different businesses. You set up a business model with some of these huge businesses to knowing that you're going to take a loss because you think in the future you're going to be able to retain X percent. Like, how many people are you going to get to sign up for a subscription service of Hulu right away before it was a thing? Probably not as many as you would get to people at $10 a month or $20 a month. Probably not nearly as many people as you'd get who'd sign up for it for free. And then a year later or 2 years later, you start charging them $10 a month to keep it.
The worst was when we had YouTube Premium for a second and we didn't have any ads.
Oh, I miss those days. I saw a video of some guy talking about, like, essentially he can't believe he's around all these low-class people because there was like a YouTube ad. They were watching a YouTube video and an ad popped up. He's like, I didn't know I was around such poor, you know. It made me think, you know, fondly of those days when I was, but it's not that big of a deal. On some videos, it's super annoying.
Well, I was watching this one YouTube video and then the ad was like 90 plus seconds. And I was like, how long is this ad?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you can skip it after like.
Yeah, if you're not, like, the worst is when you have something playing and it's a popular video that has a ton of ad revenue on it. And then you're not near the controller for some reason. Like, I'll play YouTube TV, and when that happens on there, I'm like, oh, my God. And then it's like this big moral crisis. Do I stop what I'm doing and go find the controller to skip the ad or just get through the ad? Oh,
I usually do.
I'm exhausted just thinking about it. What was the thing? There was a thing where I was listening to Russell Brand, and he was saying, Russell Brand was like, I remember there was times where I used to get high, and I would be contemplating if it was worth my energy to get the remote control off of my leg or not, because he wanted to change the channel. Where were we? So the Truman Show.
Okay, yes.
But no, what did we start off with, though?
We started off with the ice cream machine.
Okay, so is there more about the ice cream machine? Basically, the ice cream conspiracy is that the company was intentionally having their machines break down to service them, to make huge money off of franchisees through an agreement with the franchise, because the franchise itself wasn't paying for it. Mm-hmm. And so in order to be a franchisee, you had to have a contract with these guys, you had to keep the ice cream machine, and you had to pay an awful lot to keep this thing running. And people got upset.
Yeah.
And the people who actually got upset was just a consumer who was like, why are the ice cream machines always broken at the Golden Arches?
I wonder how often people honestly buy ice cream from there.
That's what I was thinking about when we were talking about it. But then you think about milkshakes and that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, if they're getting ice cream there.
Those
I could see a lot more people getting milkshakes than just soft serve cones. But
those shakes with which I still am confused why the spoons look that way.
Because they go on the machine.
That is true?
What?
It's the stir for it?
It was. I don't know if it still is. But back in the day when it came out, it had a clip on it and a little hole for the pin to go through. And you clip it on there and you'd stir it and then you'd clip it off and just give the person the shake with the spoon in it. It's actually kind of genius.
Because I had heard that too, but I didn't know if that was part of the cleaning conspiracy as well, that they just didn't want to clean another part. Oh, and so
could have been, make it more convenient. I'm sure with how large the Golden Arches is, they probably put a lot of work. Did you ever see the movie, The Founder?
No, but I know what it's about, the founder of that.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
You're like, I wasn't just trying to divert.
Yeah, I'm not diverting. But in that movie, the way it's portrayed, I should say, the way their history is being written in that movie, is that they effectively took that system from those brothers of how they operated their store to be super efficient as far as making it. And that's what really they took, was their system, But really, the big thing was the genius thing that he came upon was the real estate tie-in as far as getting those locations and stuff. That was like how he made all his money. But
Well, is he still alive?
Michael Keaton, I don't know the I don't know the founder. I don't remember. Yeah.
That was pretty good. No, I've not. I did see Super Size Me though, and that movie was wild.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I can't go into it. I'm
That
sure.
first scene when he's like, "I got the McGrumbles," and then he's ralphing all over the place. That had to have hurt them significantly.
Oh, I'm sure. I think that because back in the day, they used to be like, "Do you want to supersize that?" That's
Yeah,
why
they
they
asked
called
everyone.
it that. But then they had to stop. Like they had to stop doing that. Like that's not even an option anymore. And I wonder if that movie is the reason why.
Oh, I'm sure that submarine that. Yeah, and because part of the rules of his documentary series or whatever was, anytime they asked, he had to say yes.
Which my question is why did he do like I don't know if we needed a documentary like that.
It was good. He only made it like what, 15, 18 days before he had to shut it down.
Well, didn't the doctor say he was like,
yeah,
you have to stop?
yeah, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah, so I am curious though if it's just this franchise that has these machines or is it more?
Maybe. Well, we haven't done any research, but I'm sure there's other, like I said, other what I would call schemes like that, where there's franchise agreements where you have to use particular devices or particular stuff that's inefficient and you could be using something better, but someone has an agreement with it.
That's kind of sad though, because you're just stuck in that forever.
Right. But
guess-
you're in a good, if you can afford to purchase a Golden Arches franchise, you're probably in a good position.
I wonder if I would want to own a franchise.
Depends on what it is. And the deal. It's all about the deal. What it is and what the deal is. Some deals work out really well. Some aren't that great. So, Truman Show.
Okay.
You watch the Truman Show?
Yes.
All right. Well, what'd you think? Sorry, I'm looking at the camera because it's a Truman Show, so that makes sense to me. The opening scene with the guy with the trash can with the obvious camera in the trash can that's like right in his face.
Yeah.
And the dog, the Dalmatian.
Well, okay, so there were about an hour in, I would say, is when my mind started getting blown a little bit.
Okay.
Because the first hour I was like, oh, okay, this is like cool, whatever. I don't know how he doesn't realize, especially after the girl that he liked pretty much told him what was going on, and he still was just like, okay.
Well, and then they flash back and show his Christmas when he was like 10 years old or something, and the guy jumps out of the box like, you're in a TV show, Truman.
It seems like there was so many things that like should have spelled it out for him.
Well, here's what my initial thought from in the beginning was that the movie, I remember it being like an awakening, like he's having an awakening to he's in this movie or in this television show. But when you watch it over again from the beginning, I was like, they were awakening him on purpose. It was part of the show.
So did they know then always that he would eventually get out of it?
It made me wonder, right? Made me wonder. But they were intentionally waking him up. I mean, when they rained on him,
I know, that was super obvious.
And they was following him, and there was other things that happened right in the beginning. I'm trying to think of some of the other examples, but there were things that were like happening right in the beginning of the movie. Oh, when the light fell, and it had the Sirius Canis 9 whatever, which ties into the moon conspiracies and the NASA program.
Really?
Supposedly, people have tried to tie that into. Well, we can make that whole other thing because I don't have the information fresh in my head right now, but I know I've watched breakdowns of the Truman Show in the past where they kind of break down and show you some of the Easter eggs that are in there and what they think that they're hinting at.
Well, the fact that the whole thing was done inside of the moon.
Yeah.
Like the whole operation was...
The main operation was inside of a hollow moon.
Yeah.
That was there all the time.
And it was ginormous, yeah.
Well, it was there during the day. You could see that period where the moon and the sun were out at the same time. And my daughter said that. She's like, the moon and the sun are both together. I was like, it's been like that every day for the last year and a half, and I don't remember that my whole life, and I'm going crazy. She's like, calm down, Dad. Because there's been these days where I don't remember, for whatever reason, I guess it's normal, but I don't remember the moon being out, like a full moon being out, and there's the sun. And I'm like, why am I seeing a full moon and there's the sun?
You're like right there.
It's like 2:00 and there's a full moon and there's the sun.
I also don't remember there being so many astrology stuff. Like, I swear there's a lunar
something every other day.
Yes.
Yeah,
all
blood
of
moon,
the
a blue
time.
moon, a double blood blue moon. And I'm
I
just like,
know.
what?
Like, all of the time.
Yeah.
Where before it was just like, oh, you won't see this again for another like 50 years.
Mhm.
So that's interesting to me too, that there's so much like outer space anomalies now.
Yeah.
What really started blowing my mind was when he was trying to leave, because the whole time he's trying to go to Fiji to find that girl.
Right, because the dad was like, we're going to Fiji.
I know, he just threw that out there. And I guess she lived in California just waiting for the day that he got out of the thing.
Yeah.
Like, she literally waited for this guy that she talked to for 2 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but she watched him his whole life.
That's true.
And she was an actor, an extra in the thing, so she was watching him from afar for a long time.
Which must be hard that, like,
close.
she's going to know so much about him and he's not going to know, like, anything about
her. Even her real name.
Yeah.
You know, who she really is.
I don't know how you would overcome that. And, like, how do any of these...
Love breaks down all barriers.
I just don't know how these people can, like, do that without any breaks or vacations or anything.
The actors?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they had to work every day.
That's like all I kept thinking about, but then I was like, this is a movie, I need to get over that part of this. It's really not important.
But that's a good point. It's a good perspective.
He's going to a trip planner. What are those people called?
Oh, like a vacation planner.
A vacation planner.
Who walks in with her makeup bib on?
Yeah.
That's what that was. It was a makeup bib.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, for when you get makeup and stuff put on when you're an actor and actress.
Oh, that part totally went over my head. Yeah. But I think
there's a lot of little nods in the movie too. Other than the obvious ones. I think
I only caught the obvious ones. He's in the office, and obviously the whole production team knows that he is trying to get out of this dome and trying to go to Fiji, and so they're trying to get him scared to fly.
Yeah.
And so there were all exactly. And so there were all these posters that were just like talking about like this could be you, and like a plane was going down. Yeah. There was talks about attacks and stuff, and I could not stop thinking about
drawing some parallels there.
I was just like, oh my gosh, they're trying to make him scared to travel because he's going to leave the dome. Right now, there have been several airplanes that have gone down, and a lot of people are really scared to travel, and I swear it's like...
Well, didn't you recognize the tactics? I mean, it was a caricature of those tactics, but didn't you recognize those tactics after having lived through 2020 and 2021?
I was freaking out during this part because I was like, they're literally showing us what they do. Where it's like their and
it's
whole
like,
thing.
Who's the they? It's like these collective organizations all get on, but anyway.
So that was wild to me how...
And he's like, another thing that was interesting, since you're talking about that, he's like, well, if that's true, that means that everyone's in on it, and that means that I'm in on it, and I would never lie to you, and blah blah blah. It's like, no, yeah, everyone is in on it.
And then he was getting like the words, the lines, and so it's just then after that, I realized that the whole movie is actually about, at least I feel like the whole movie is about control and about like the fear tactics that they use to gain that control.
Well, how much was what was his name? I want to say Cletus. What was the director's name? But how much of
Christoph or something?
Christoph, yeah, maybe it was Christoph. How much of like a dog mom was he?
I know.
Right? Like I told her, he was Truman was his child, but it was clearly not, and he was making this thing occur. Right? Sorry to the dog moms out there, but you can take care of your dog, but you're not a dog mom. You're just not, right? He was definitely that. Like he had Christoph or whatever his name was, clearly had that void in his life, and Truman had become his child to him, or his creation almost. Like his creation. He like he fawned over him and was like, did that scene where he was like stroking his giant face when he was going to sleep, and at the end when he was talking to him, trying to coax him into staying and things like that. You know, it was very much like, I kept thinking he was like a dog mom.
That's super interesting.
Where it's like the dog just wants to run around and really doesn't want to wear a parka and a pink. It actually does not care. I
didn't draw that parallel, but it is actually true where he was, well, near the end, he was almost like the director, Christoph or whatever, was acting like God almost. And he was like talking through the megaphone. And he
Literally.
was like looking up
Yeah.
and he was like trying to
Well, he was
convince him to
controlling
stay.
the weather.
That was the other thing too, where I was like, I know you're gonna.
My daughter, I watch it with my daughter, and she's like, "Dad, they're controlling the weather." I was just like, "Oh,
When they were controlling the weather. Honestly, this is another thing where I was just like, this is so much more prevalent today than I think when I watched it because of all the things that we've seen.
Same thing with Eyes Wide Shut, right? It was like these soft reveals at the time, where now it's like when you start to understand like what's actually happened. She said, my daughter said, "Oh, she's controlling the weather," like insinuating like that I say. And I was like, we actually know that people in Saudi Arabia pay money to seed the clouds so they can have grass. And if you suggest there's an opportunity to control weather, people are acting like you're crazy. Same thing with like UFO people. It's like, we factually know, if you remove any suspicion or any conversation about anything in regard to any kind of weather patterns, but you just stick with the fact that we know that you can seed a cloud and you can hit it with electrical stimulus or hit it with laser light or whatever they do. I forget the exact medium in which they're using. They cause rainstorms and they pay for rainstorms. And we know that wealthy individuals pay for rainstorms so they can have rain in desert areas and have grass. We know that to be factually correct.
Well, and also, isn't it also a tactic in, I don't even know what I can say, like combat?
Well, that's what kind of gets circulated on the internet, is that one, what is he, a physicist, that discusses a three-letter agency program. I think it was called I want to say the Red Dragon, but it was something to do with dragon. And effectively, he was talking about during a wartime event that during the 1960s, I believe, they were seeding clouds to rain in the tunnels of those individuals and force them out of the tunnels. And he said that like on national television, on CNBC or something like that. And it's in a book. There's a book that was written about the operation. And I for some reason, dragon's sticking in my head, but I can't remember. If you know, put it in the comments below.
I know, it's just like, if you think about it though, why would you not like control what you can control when you understand how much control can give you,
Right.
and how much power people have? You would control everything that you possibly could.
Well, what's always the quote about technology and magic? That if you get to the point where technology is more X amount advanced from the society you're showing it to, it's literally taken as magic.
I believe it. AI is going to be like magic, I bet.
Well, could you imagine go back and take your iPhone and show your grandparents when they were your age? You don't think they'd be blown away and floored? You don't think they'd think there was a magic teleport if I could take this piece of glass and you could take the piece of glass and we could stand 10 feet away from each other and be talking to each other on the mirror? They would be blown away.
Imagine in like 10 years from now what we're going to have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the technology that we'll have. Well, there's probably stuff that in 10 years from now you could talk about and think it's impossible or think people are foolish to believe that it would exist. And it could be a regular thing that we're all aware of or interact with.
Right.
Like, look at AI.
AI blows my mind every day.
Yeah.
It's just like you literally give it a prompt and it gives you the answer back in like less than a minute.
Less than a minute, seconds. I mean, it formulates it in seconds.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't understand.
Well, and then they're talking about supercomputing now. And what was the thing about the supercomputing was like the speed of the super computations that are being done suggests that like basically our whole reality is false. Like someone was doing a breakdown, and I'm not going to do it any justice, but they were effectively doing a breakdown where they were showing that the speeds of the computation at which are occurring are so exponentially fast that the only way it's possible is if we're like in a simulation. And they broke down the why, because they took the actual speeds of like what we're currently doing, what we're supposed to be doing, and what supposedly that that government agency that goes around as a web browser, what's that called? Google. That Google they have the server, the technology they have, and the speed in which they have of their new system that people were talking about, right? Their new supercomputer.
Oh, right. I know, that's the thing, is like, and we don't even know what technology they have that they're just not even releasing to the public yet. I'm sure they had AI in the 90s.